Hey guys, what's going on here? My name is Felix, and in today's video, this is probably one of the first videos that I've ever done, long form content. But pretty much it's gonna be diving into sort of like my business and then how my decision making process, what the next steps are, how I plan everything, how I kind of like forecast specific nuts and bolts of the business that needs to be worked on in order to grow from where we are right now, 7 figures to 8 figures. And that would ultimately take a lot of, changes that I'm currently not doing in the business. So this is more kind of like a master plan or a brainstorming session on what I think would needs to be completed or what needs to be done in order to kind of like start scaling in that case, right? So I took a lot of notes over here, and the first thing I want to kind of like emphasize on is with any start of any market when you're starting out, getting from 0 to 6 to even 7 figures, you're pretty much a what we call like a marketer or a promoter in that case, right? So the only thing that you guys focus on from that end, kind of like what I started doing, is I put a lot of emphasis in just promoting and doing marketing. I didn't care too much about the content of the product, the quality of the products, because when you're starting out, you're just trying to make as much money as you can and build momentum. So then you invest that money into infrastructures, into hiring team members, etc. Right? So that has took me from 0 to 6 figures pretty quickly, and then to 7 figures just by dialing in on how we market and how we build an audience, right? Not too much about, and then I would say focusing on sales, right? But from my understanding and from kind of like a lot of the mentors I've been learning from, what really separate you as a 7 figure company to an 8 figure company is when you focus on the things that might not look as sexy, right? Where a lot of entrepreneurs nowadays that I see on the internet is kind of like disregarding, and that is more of like the infrastructure of the business, operations, financial management, and then most importantly, how to manage your team members, and then recruiting, hiring, HR, etc. Right? So not the sexiest part of the business, but it's very essential because those are the nuts and bolts that builds that system that can run on its own at the end of the day, right? So I feel like that's where my bottleneck is at right now, is I am so focused on just the marketing, getting attention, building an audience, which I do a pretty decent job in the past couple of years, but that has slowly diluted my growth to what I wanted to get to. And for me to actually hit 8 figures, I need to change everything I'm doing as a chief executive officer, the way that I run the business and the way that I look at things, and most importantly, the type of decisions that you make at the end of the day for the business, right? So getting from 7 figure to 8 figures now will require pretty much me being as an operator, right? Okay, so in order to be an operator, you definitely need to understand how management works, how operations work. You have to understand accounting. You have to understand how to track a lot better in every department of the business. And then, let's see. Yeah, and then most importantly, systems, right? These are sort of like the main core foundations that you need to kind of like understand as an operator. Is the unsexy thing, but obviously that allows you to scale significantly as long as you understand how each of these areas or core components tie into the business all in all, right? And then from there, you need to understand how do you keep it efficient, and then most importantly, you need to be technical with how you build out those systems, right? So that's something that I definitely got to work on. So to give you a quick example, I think the biggest bottleneck right now for us is I feel like we're very unorganized in this space, being in the 6 to 7 figure range, right? What do I mean by being unorganized? My books is really unorganized. I have multiple credit cards, business credit cards that I use. I outsource our book to a bookkeeper, an accountant, and I rarely look at those statements at the end of the day. I have just a rough idea of like how well we're doing within the business, within cash, but as an operator, in order for you to obviously make changes, make the type of decisions to grow to 8 figures, you need to nail, yeah, you need to pretty much really understand the inside and outs of the cash flow within the business, right? So I think the biggest changes that I have to do is personally hire a, in-house bookkeeper that I communicate with on a week-to-week basis, right? And then really knowing my numbers on that, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the amount of cash coming in and the amount of cash going out, right? Secondly, we need a better job of keeping track of internal payments. So right now I'm doing all of the tracking for the internal payments, and I feel like obviously if you're trying to grow from 7 to 8 figures, the things you focus on is really going to matter, and the quality of the things that you focus on, you want to make sure you understand the input and the output of things. So for example, I see myself doing, tracking doing admin tasks. These are considered admin tasks. Admin tasks are basically anything that's, that can be delegated for like under $15 an hour. Like that's knowing what my hourly rate is, so I know what to focus on more. That's going to create the most amount of output, is something that I've been dealing with for the past two to 3 years, right? So for me, in order to understand what am I spending my time on and why, given the time that I spent on my business, it's not creating the results I want to get to hit 8 figures, is because it really comes down to the type of tasks and responsibilities that you're working on. So I see, when I kind of calculate it every day, what I did is pretty much every day from 7 to 3 or 7 to 4, I work like 8 to 9 hours a day. Every 30-minute increments, I would just list down what I'm doing specifically. And then after a week of doing, 5 days in a row, I will look back at it and see, okay, categorize based on what I've been doing into different categories. So for example, if I'm doing admin stuff, if I'm like copying and pasting, if I'm like, responding to customer support, if I'm doing, tracking, like all of those are under 15 to 20 bucks an hour, which a virtual assistant or another employee can, obviously help me do, while I focus on things that really matters, which is creating more ads, which is recruiting or hiring more people or training your team members. Because based on my energy, 1 hour of my energy training a team members on how to sell better or becoming a better sales manager, that output of that sales manager is obviously going to create a lot more significant cash flow for the company, as compared to me doing internal tracking one time. That's not going to result to anything, right? It's just going to give you a bird's eye view of the business. Obviously that's important, but it's not your responsibility as a high executive or a CEO to be focused on, where, that can be delegated to a different employee, or that can be systemized in a way, as long as you have some sort of like system set up where it tracks all of your numbers for you, right? So figuring that part out is very important. So that obviously comes down to like operations, right? How are you operating as an operator? What do you focus on? The quality of the task and the output that you get from those tasks. That is what, something I got to work on. Yeah, so just being efficient with this, and then hiring an in-house not housekeeper, but bookkeeper, right, to do my books and then review the numbers on a week-by-week basis, just so I know, hey, based on the money that we're investing in, this is sort of like where we're losing money, this is where we're making more money, therefore we need to cut costs on certain stuff. Maybe we need to change up the commission structure. Maybe we have enough funds to hire people now, because given, how much money is coming here. It also allows you to understand what you can eliminate that's costing you more money, right? There's a lot of things that are kind of like liabilities of your company and that you're not really aware of until you sit down with your bookkeeper and you analyze each, category, what goes into your bank account, what goes out. Hey, is the money that's invested into this specific system, to this specific app, or even employees, are they being productive with it? And I think another big one is just setting like 3 main KPIs per department, and then make sure you're also reviewing that on a week by week basis, right? Yeah, so I do kind of a bad job setting KPIs. I do my best to have end of day reports submitted to me, but aside from that, I just want to make sure, hey, we're also progressing on a week by week basis. We're also seeing, hey, what's been done last week, what's been done this week, why is the numbers changing, right? So, because that would really help you understand on a deeper level, like what's going on within different department, right? But at the end of it, I understand from 7 figures to 8 figures, you need to trust your team member and start hiring managers that can help you keep track of these, number one. And then at the end of the day, you can slowly, once you get used to reviewing your books with your bookkeeper on a week by week basis, you start hiring what we call like a CFO or like a fractional CFO. So now your time and energy, because you only have a finite amount of decisions that you can make a day. And then once you start making these sort of decisions throughout the day, your mind gets tired, therefore it affects your mood, therefore it affects your actions, it affects your habits, and the type of work that you put into your business, right? So the less decisions that you can make, obviously the more effective it can be. So ultimately what you want to do is make sure you can delegate as much decision as possible as you progress, but make sure that you know how to do it first, because you're going to be the one QCing those people at the end of the day, right? So that's where quality control comes in. So understanding that, my end goal here is to hire a fractional CFO to kind of like delegate this to. But in order to do so, I need to at least get into the habit of setting this system up, right? Where I hire like a internal bookkeeper. We review everything on a week by week basis. We understand what we're reviewing. That's where SOPs comes in, right? SOP is very important. SOP is pretty much, just listing the step-by-step responsibility on how to run a specific task, and then combining all of that is kind of like how you have a business, right? That makes it a machine, right? So I'm doing a bad job with writing SOPs, and I think the easiest way that I kind of like came up with is just record a quick Loom video, and then also kind of like use Scribe to have this written out for me, right? So I'm kind of like automating it. SOP is very important, and the way that I look at it is just like, if you don't have SOPs in place, obviously, you're wasting time hiring people because now you have to train them, right? But if you have SOPs in place, you can train them a little bit, but have them watch videos or go on Google Docs, look up specific tasks related to their role, and they will kind of like catch on to it pretty quickly, and you're saving yourself so much time, right? So let's see. Yeah, so aside from that, is just financially, we just need to understand where our money's coming in, where it's coming out. Also, a big part is AR. AR is account receivables. So a lot of times in our business, we have people that are on, contract with us, pretty much. They're on monthly retainers, or they pay us a small percentage upfront, but there's still like 80% of cash that needs to be collected in the next period of time. I feel like I'm doing a very bad job on monitoring that, right? So I do it internally through Excel sheet, but at the same time, I feel like you need to just make sure you have a system in place, or just have a dedicated, AR catalog, because that is essentially what fuels the business, is the way that you keep track of your finances, and obviously when those payments are collected, right? Because if you miss a payment that should have been collected last month, going into this month, that can effectively affect your cash flow in certain expenses that you spend in the company, and you're going to be asking yourself, why is my margin so low this month? It's because you don't have a good AR system. You're not keeping track of your books. You're not keeping track of when you should be collecting payments, how you're collecting those payments. That really comes down to, for example, let's just say you can automatically charge payments with the card on file. Sometimes the card do get declined, or sometimes, obviously the card doesn't have enough money into it. So now you need to have a dedicated SOP or a standard process to have your team member reach out to them to obviously collect that remaining payment, right? So it's the little things that you need to understand in the business to see where kind of like the bottleneck is. And for us, it's mainly how we keep track of our books, as well as making sure that we're documenting our SOPs, because that really matters when we start hiring people. And the way that you really grow business is by hiring the right people. And I would say, you hire people for potential. And the way that I plan on doing it is, it's very hard to take someone from the market and then bring them into your company, because if you hire the wrong person, that can kind of be toxic. It can create a virus in the culture, and they can burn your business to the ground, right? So the way that I want to hedge it, or my thought process behind it, is always promoting your best employee that's currently in the business, that's overseeing your day-to-day basically, so they understand how to run ads, your day-to-day operations, how to do onboarding, how to do client fulfillment, how to keep track of stuff, how to write SOPs. You promote them to a manager, because that's the easiest. You don't have to train them as much. You're just giving them a different role in that case with very similar responsibility, but they're more focused on managing other team members, right? And then those people will be the one to build out different departments for you in, different sub-department of the department, right? So for example, if someone is very good at tracking in the company already, or if he or she already has accounting experience, they're doing a lot in the company for you, they're your best employee, you can, obviously promote them to a manager. As a manager, they will come up with the process on how to manage your book better, creating spreadsheets on how to keep track of your AR accounts. Once they have those processes dialed in, they go ahead and hire a fractional CFO. And then what they would do is kind of like put all of those responsibilities in that financial department to the CFO. And then they move on to the next department, and they kind of like build out department as well, right? And they move on to the next department and they build that out as well, right? So that's sort of like the plan that I want to do. Moving forward is, just be a really good manager, because what took me to from 0 to 7-figure, it's not gonna get, it's a whole different game. It's a whole different skill sets that you need to learn. It's learning about the small things, not the small things. The small things does matter, but learning, the unsexy things at the end of the day. Anyone can market, anyone can build an audience, anyone can do sales, right? The front end stuff is what a lot of people kind of like promote, right? They feel like once you master this, you have a business. No, it's not. Once you master this, you have other problems. You can obviously sell a bunch of products, make all of these promises, but if you don't have the proper infrastructure in place afterwards, you're going to be dealing with a lot of refunds, chargebacks, unsatisfied customers, negative reviews, and that is going to ruin your reputation. That's going to ruin your entire business. And that's why we see a lot of like these online entrepreneurs, within like 2 or 3 years coming into an industry, they might crush it because they know how to market, they know how to do sales, they know how to build an audience, but they don't know how to do the back end stuff back end stuff in the business, which is learning how to manage, learning how to hire, learning how to write SOPs, learning about operations, learning how to track, learning how to build systems, right? Being efficient with your time. So my philosophy behind this is just like, it really comes down to like your lifestyle and who you are. You are a reflection of your business, right? We see a lot of people, the reason why they're not crushing it anymore after 2 or 3 years, or they kind of like disappear, is because once they start making a lot of money, right? Once their income goes up, their expenses goes up. Therefore, that kind of like dilute how they make certain decisions, because now all of their decisions is made on how do I keep up with my expenses and my lifestyle expenses every day, and that's creating more sales, right? It's selling more, and then that also comes with more problems. Now you have to deal with customer support. Now you have to deal with refunds, chargebacks. Now you have to deal with, obviously how to fulfill those clients, how to make your product better, how you can innovate your products, right? So they're constantly just like, on this pedestal of making more money every single month to obviously compensate their lifestyle expenses, as compared to someone that has a simpler life. As your income drastically increase, you keep that income section stagnant, or it just raises a little bit, right? You have room for error here. Like it allows you to, just take a step back. It might reduce your revenue. You might not spend too much in, marketing or building an audience or doing sales. You focus more on operations now, right? Building a customer support team, building a customer support system in place, having support ticket system, that really matters. Learning how to build spreadsheets with, KPIs, that really matters on the growth of the business, right? Learning how to dial in your operations, creating zaps, creating things that can be automated instead of having, employees do all of this complex tasks. You can automate like 50 to 80% of it, right? And that's how you really grow the business at the end of the day, right? So that's kind of like my philosophy behind everything as of this moment, from my understanding on how to grow from 7 figures to 8 figures, and kind of like my plan behind it. It's all about dialing in on our operations, learning how to become a better manager, learning how to recruit better, learning how to train people better, learning how to build internal, doing stuff internally instead of like, hiring a bookkeeper on the outside and not being too accountable with what's going on, right? It's little things that really matters, the nuts and bolts that comes into fruition as long as you start doing it, as long as you understand what got you to one place is never going to get you to the next level, because you need to start because it takes a whole different level of skill sets that you need to focus on, right? With that being said, yeah, I think that would be it. That's kind of like a bird's eye view, a macro level on some of the things I want to focus on. So just to recap, what got you to one spot is not going to get you to the next level. You need to focus on, different things. You have to start making better decisions. You need to start having a better skill set. And then number 2, you want to start focusing on financial management. I think that's the biggest one, understanding the in and outs of your finances within the business. What are your main expenses? Categorizing that, seeing if there's an increase or a decrease. Why is there an increase or decrease? Because if you can eliminate it pretty quickly, that's going to save you. That one decision on learning how to eliminate certain stuff quickly is going to save you so many decisions on how you deal with it later on, right? So that's my thought process behind it. And most importantly is the quality of the decisions that you make and the quality of what your input and output is, right? It's like 1 hour of my time, I want to make sure I have 10x the output. Instead of me doing a one-on-one onboarding call with someone, like obviously that is 1-to-1, right? I can onboard someone and that will be it. But what if my onboarding is, I create an onboarding SOP, my 1 hour to create an onboarding SOP, but I have 5 different account managers watch it, they learn it, and then from that point on, they can onboard like 10 other clients, right? That's a 1 to 50 output, right? So your mental model, how you think, really matters. Again, what got you to one spot is not going to get you to the next level. You want to make sure you change up the skill sets. You need to learn new skills, and that's where the game really comes in. And I'm very, excited for this. This is the first time again that I'm sharing everything that I'm trying to do, and it's more like a brainstorming session for myself. I'm going to be posting this on YouTube, and then if you like these sort of content, just comment below. Let me know specifically what you want to kind of see. I'm planning to do more of these long form brainstorming session. I think it's very relatable and applicable to a lot of people that are watching me. So yeah, I appreciate you joining in today, and then I'll see you guys in the next video. All right.